Hey, hi everyone. We are going to be discussing how we can go from assistants to AI employees. I'm going to start with a very, very quick intro of Emma. The first 15 minutes of this talk is going to be not hands-on. So we're going to talk to you about this topic, what Emma does, how we've helped dozens of enterprises go from assistants to AI employees. This is a hands-on workshop. So if you've got your laptops here and you actually want to try out the Emma platform and try going from an assistant to an AI employee, this is a good time to do that. So I'm just going to keep this up for a second. I'm going to request you to scan the first QR code if you want access to the product. And while we go over Emma and this topic, the first 15 minutes, our team around here will get you access. It's going to give you a couple of minutes. I also recommend scanning the second one in case you don't want to be typing out long instructions and prompts yourself. You're welcome to do that and improvise on the platform, but if you go for the second one, there's a lot of copy-paste content to help you. Cool. We have a bunch of TAs standing around, so in case you haven't scanned these, you want to do that the next 15 minutes, you can just ask one of them to show you the QRs. Awesome. Getting started, kicking this off with quick intros so you know who the TAs are. I'm Anushka. I was the founding product manager at Emma. We're a company that started in 2023. We serve Fortune 2000 clients, and we help them automate mostly HR, IT, finance roles end-to-end. So we've got thousands of AI employees in production, and we've also got hundreds of external builders building on Emma. So you're going to be seeing the products that we give to them to kind of do all of this in a self-serve fashion. And you've got the engineering and ML team that works on this product around the room. So you've got Soham, our founding engineer. I think Eric's still coming in. You've got Anika with the laptop there. Kunal's still coming in. Yoshita's here in the front. We've got Karan somewhere in the room. Yep, Karan's here, his hand's up. Shivan over there. And I think you've actually got a CEO here, and Raj, his chief of staff. As we get on the hands-on parts, you should see these people milling around. Feel free to pause them, pull them over for any questions as you get stuck. We want you to actually launch multiple AI employees in just 30 minutes of hands-on building that you can potentially use for recruiting. I also want to get a quick sense of who's in the room. Swarm up a hands, raising a hands. How many of you are from the Bay Area? Awesome. How many of you are traveling in? Great. Welcome to the Bay Area. We are based out of Mountain View. So everyone you see here, we work out of our Mountain View office. All of us are local. I also want to understand quick demographics. You've seen we are mostly product engineering folks. How many of you are Berkeley students? Nope. OK, we've got a couple. How many of you are engineers, developers? You're technical. You used to write code. You probably use Claude to code now. OK, awesome. How many of you are in research or academia? Cool. Founders, builders, taking agents into production. A lot of them. OK. Welcome. And lastly, any non-technical professionals who've probably not done agent building hands-on. Welcome to you as well. You'll see you don't really need to be technical to work on Emma. Great, so we've kept this as technical as you need. Feel free to go deeper, ask us questions. Cool, jumping right into the topic of the session. So what separates assistants from AI employees? Why do we use the term AI employees, which can be a little provoking for people, like why are you putting them into like roles like human employees? A lot of people are used to using assistants via things like Claude Cowork, directly talking to ChatGPT, or even assistants that pop up in like those small floating icons on your websites. Assistants are reactive. They need humans to trigger them. They need humans to understand what they can do, what their limits are, and what are the best practices of working with them. Assistants also suggest and draft what you can do a lot of times. They don't actually like touch the same systems as you. They don't have the same amount of access. You wouldn't trust them in the same seats and the same actions that you would trust even a junior employee or an intern with. Assistants are also stateless. I think we've all experienced this. You're working on something on Claude Cowork. You finish your step. and then you're like sharing an artifact or you're sharing a document with somebody on Slack or Teams, and then you're doing that back and forth in meetings outside the platform, and you're the person keeping state, right? It's not your assistant that actually like orchestrating a multi-step workflow across days and peoples and systems, which is what most of our jobs involve, right? And lastly, you have to be a little scared. You have to like govern everything yourself. You can install an MCP that's probably not allowed in your company. You can install a skill that can have security issues. So the user often has accountability to ensure nothing wrong happens. And I think we've all apologized for our AI's errors at times, where it's been like, I'm sorry, that was an AI error. I should have checked that better. We made the shift to AI employees 3 years back, like 2023. That's when we coined the term. We made sure we started with all of these as first principles. The first one being that AI employees are actually proactive. They should be triggered by events, system changes, or even schedules. Here's a fun fact. Because you can build AI employees on Emma, our builders actually build 50% conversational AI employees where somebody's supposed to chat with them, and 50% of them are API triggered, right, by some system or a schedule. So the build is 50-50. You think it's going to be like equally impactful, but more than 90% of our invocations are actually automated. And that's how any human works. If you have a junior employee or an intern, you're not pinging them to do stuff every time, right? They're just doing things after a point. They're getting more and more autonomous. And that's what's happened with Emma's AI employees as well. The second one, being able to act on real systems. Our integration platform is really deep, as you shall see. We've been talking to a lot of people about MCP. Emma supports MCP. Fun fact, we developed a tool protocol before MCP came out. And that one is much faster, more constrained, simpler to set up. So we give our builders a choice. People usually start with MCP because it's already there, but you can just bring any kind of API. You can bring your REST, SFTP, SOAP, whatever protocol you want, and directly give access to your agents. But we do want the AI employees to directly be acting on these systems with the right set of constrained permissions. So you might want to be using the authentication of a junior employee, of the person invoking the AI employee or collaborating with the AI employee. Like, I can't go and ask for my manager's paycheck. That should not be allowed. So having a system that allows you to express all of those restrictions. Third, you want it to learn. You want it to have persistent state across different steps, systems, users, multiple days, long duration tasks. Come back and ask me about this in 6 months. That should work well. And lastly, governance. You probably don't want to think about this as a builder. You just want a system where your chief security officer can set this up, and you know the system will stop you if you're going to breach something. You probably don't even want to know what's not allowed. What makes us uniquely qualified to talk about this today and help you set up these AI employees? There's some of our customers here. Feel free to go over the impact there. Like I mentioned, 90% of our invocations are programmatic. Most of our impact and revenue is driven by actual work that's just happening behind the scenes. 100% of our AI employees actually change state in real systems. We don't really have use cases where you're asking it for, give me a drafted email and copying it over yourself. Imagine that example, but in every system you work across. So a lot of companies now use Emma as a single pane of glass. You're not opening 10 tabs to do things across your different systems. You're actually doing it from a single screen now. And that screen could be Slack or Teams. Because it's an employee, you can talk to Emma wherever you already are. And lastly, we've got a lot of use cases in regulated industries. Like, I don't have the logos here, but Prime Therapeutics is a healthcare customer where Emma does prior authorization assistance in the background. So we are processing thousands and thousands of prior authorizations. And we're also working with HSS, Hospital of Special Surgery in NYC, for like scheduling appointments for their patients. So we are working in finance and healthcare flows, which of course comes with the regulatory needs pre-built into the system. Not something we're going to touch in the hands-on part of our workshop, but that's a quick glimpse. The hero couple of use cases here, I would say, given the context of the workshop, being recruiting, is like Wipro, where we are live with 240,000 employees across the globe, and they use us for all their employee experience questions. And the other one is Artico, which is an executive recruiting firm, one of the top firms in the US. And we were able to cut down their time to hire with 67%. Maybe one or two more slides before we jump into the hands-on part. The product you'll see is quite complex. You're all going to get a role called builder. So you're not going to get access to the admin and the governance features yet, simply because you'll all be able to see each other's work then. This is Emma's platform architecture. I'll also give you a quick demo. Feel free to play around. We are a multi-cloud company, so we can deploy on-prem across clouds like Azure, GCP, etc. Again, we do things like data residency. The next layer being the LLM layer. None of our enterprise customers actually want to deal with model leaderboards. So they don't want to figure out which model is doing well for a specific task I care about this week, and then keep changing the model. So that's where Emma Fusion comes in. We take the onus of keeping all the latest models in the Emma Fusion layer, and depending on the task your exact AI employee is performing, we promise to get you the best accuracy at the lowest cost and latency. So again, most customers don't think about LLMs. The next one is Builder Platform. This is what you'll be working with. So we've got a lot of pre-trained domain-specific agents. You'll see a small subset of them today on your platform. Imagine data extraction. Extracting data from a 500-page doc, which has contradictions and duplications. How do you then get a structured data object out where you have deduplicated and you're very accurate? You probably can train an agent to do that well, but we have a data extraction agent that's really good at that already. So we've got a lot of agents like that for specific tasks. We've got a generative workflow engine that lets you put together these diverse agents alongside deterministic steps, because sometimes you don't want to use AI. If you're providing access to somebody to, let's say, a new system, you probably want to follow a set of deterministic steps. And the system should be able to mix AI steps with deterministic steps. So we let you do that, and you'll see how that works. That being said, you don't need to code. There are non-technical people in the room. In the previous generation, you would have to write code to express that deterministic logic. But Emma's autopilot will just generate those steps for you, and you just have to check the outputs. We'll check the integration layer out. We'll set up an integration. We can work across any of your other vendors, and governance comes built in. You can use dashboards, chats, APIs, voice, even generative UI to interact with any of these AI employees. And lastly, we built some pre-configured suites on all of these layers, which come pre-built with 500,000 AI employees for these use cases, like employee experience, sales, customer support. Cool. In the interest of time, I'm going to skip through the slide. If you want to take a quick picture, you're welcome to. This is your AI employee going from a demo to something in production. And when you make the shift from assistants to AI employees, you're going to face issues. It's a lot more expensive to launch an AI employee compared to an assistant. We'll skip through this. We have a booth in the Zellerbach Hall. If you're interested, come talk to us. There are a lot of people at our booth. Awesome. So this is what we're going to be building today. We are going to be building 2 AI employees. One sourcing AI employee that actually searches for real candidates using Apollo. Inside Emma, we've got collaborations with a lot of people data companies, so you don't actually have to bring your own API keys. You can directly use search over very large databases that stay alive. But for this workshop, we want you to actually integrate to a new thing, so let's do Apollo. Next, we'll do screening. And here, the key part to show is the human in the loop. When you have AI employees doing things end-to-end, you don't want them to do sensitive stuff without talking to humans. So we're going to model that. After I shortlist someone, I actually want a human to approve it before I send. So let's see how Emma models that. And then if you have 100 AI employees, you don't want the humans to be remembering what agent does what AI employee does what, whom do I go talk to. Nobody wants to deal with routing in their heads. So we're going to build a single orchestrator layer across all of these that a recruiter or a hiring manager can talk to. And they don't even have to know their different AI employees in the background. They just have one point of contact, a recruiting orchestrator, and they only talk to it, while the orchestrator can talk to a lot of different AI employees. Cool. I think with that, let me skip this again in the interest of time. Once again, we'll do a quick check on access. Some of you who already signed up should have started receiving emails with access to the product. I'm gonna. So, Emma has 3 types of builders. We've got our own builder team that goes and works with the clients, especially super non-technical clients like healthcare clients, etc., to understand their processes and workflows and helps them take it to the market. The second model is we've got partners, so people like Wipro, KPMG, etc., where the builders are training on Emma and then taking use cases to market. The third one is where customers themselves do it with Emma Autopilot. In each of these cases, we recommend going through a scoping process. For this workshop, we've kind of pre-done it for you. We've put it in the prompts and the builder hands-on guide that you'll see. But this is what we recommend going through when you're actually building an AI employee. The first one is just discovering and scoping which parts you want to automate, especially with AI. So what does the role actually require, decomposing the job into tasks, and checking which ones you want to do with AI, which ones you want to do deterministically versus which ones you actually want to still keep with a human. We make sure to get past examples. Something we've seen is people getting use cases without actual test data sets, and then you're kind of making up the test data set as you go as a builder who doesn't actually understand the business process. The second one is integrations. Like I said, figuring out what methods you want to use. For Emma, inside Emma, we, for production use cases, always recommend directly using the APIs. If you want, you can then use MCPs, which are probably going to be slightly slower and take up more of your context, so more expensive as well. If you don't have either of these, some systems don't have APIs or MCPs, then we move on to browser use within Emma. And then, of course, you've got retrieval for improving your context. And then figuring out how you actually break this up into smaller agents so that they're easier to evaluate, easier to maintain. You can delegate their maintenance to different teams in your company and so on. The next one is human-in-the-loop checkpoints. In regulated industries, this is easier because there are a lot of decisions AI just cannot make. It cannot make clinical decisions, for example. It cannot make finance market-related decisions like placing an order. But even in other use cases, you probably want to check where human judgment is key, like recruiting. You do not want agents to be recruiting end-to-end. And then you put a human boundary at the final act step where you're changing the state, and you don't do it at the think step. You actually get the AI employee to do everything until the human actually has to act, so they can see the notes and decide to act. The last one, just training the agent to also proactively raise human-in-the-loop requests and actually ask humans when it's confused. Quickly checking in with the room on the side. Are we seeing accesses roll out? Nope. OK. That's unfortunate. OK. Cool. If the team figures that out, we'll keep access open the next 2-3 hours, post the workshop so you can play with it. Regardless, we will reach out on your emails with temporary access. I know people are here because they wanted to play with the product. So we plan to remove access at the end of the workshop, but we'll keep it open for whoever signed up. For the rest of the duration we have with you, I can anyhow go ahead and demo the flow, probably take 15 minutes, and we can open up to questions. Cool. If you had logged in, you would not see any of these because these are new AI employees. Because I'm going to show you this from scratch, let me just delete the ones I already have. And we will restart here. Cool. So you're seeing a restricted version of the platform here. This is what you would get access to. You won't see any administration governance settings here. This is our homepage. You'll see we have Emma Autopilot that actually is live across all of your different pages. It has context on who you are, what you can do, and what is open in Emma in the specific page you're on. The pages you have access to are apps. We're not opening up app building access. We actually do custom UIs, custom apps that you can deploy on a new URL as well. These can have generative UI and so on. We're not going to be doing that. AI employees, you can see this is an empty page. Most customers here have hundreds of different AI employees. We're going to be building these right now. And next one is integrations. You'll see access to a pre-built integration catalog where I believe we already do have Apollo, but we're going to be building one from scratch. So this one has 31 different tools, but we'll build one just for our use case so you can see how easy it is. You can see, again, 30 different tools, and this can come from MCP. Where they don't have MCP, just bring the APIs. I'm going to jump into the builder guide. And what we're going to do here is ask it to create a new Apollo integration. We're not really providing any documentation. It's going to go to the web, figure this out. I've given it some clues on what tools I want. I want search people and enrich people. You can actually skip this when you play, and you'll just see it takes like 5-10 minutes more because it's working with you to figure what do you want to actually do with Apollo. Let me zoom in. Yeah. Then we're going to ask it for a sourcing AI employee and a screening AI employee, like the ones that I showed you earlier, and an orchestrator that uses both of these. So a recruiter does not have to understand them. We're going to ask it to go ahead and test on its own, so create test CVs and job descriptions, and actually come up with evals without me providing a data set. So I'm going to copy paste all of this into our autopilot. I think a lot of the research folks or people building agents would be familiar with agentic harnesses at this point, so I'm just going to approve the plan. This is a harness where it's got hundreds of tools across the Emma product infrastructure that I showed you, the governance layers, the builder layers, the UI layers. And then it also lets you bring your own tools and skills. So most companies then enhance it with domain-specific skills. So if you're a KPMG, you're probably bringing in your finance knowledge from decades, while having the agentic platform knowledge come in straight from Emma. So it's gone ahead, created an integration. Emma is self-correcting, so whenever it fails, it actually learns from those failures, first for the user, and then across the entire company. So this is something we've seen really improves the stickiness of Emma over a few months, especially when you're bringing your own tools. Agents might not always know how to use those tools, but like 4 or 5 people use it, the next 100 people, it's going to work well. So it's asking me if I've connected the API key. Our builder doc actually has a sample API key just set up for this workshop. I'm going to go ahead to integrations here, and we see Apollo. So I'm going to connect with my API key, and I'm going to tell it the API key is connected. So you'll see one thing you literally cannot do with Emma is give your API key here. It won't be able to do anything with it. So there is no way it can actually get it connected, paste it in. We do PII and sensitive data obfuscation at source. So as soon as you put it in the chat, it actually gets obfuscated, and that's how it's used downstream in the rest of the systems. So like, unlike a lot of other harnesses where people just paste API keys and that actually works end to end, we've got like strict system guardrails against that at Emma. Cool. So it's got 2 AI employees up. It's actually testing the tools out. And we can go in here and actually see the tests it's running. It's probably running them from the background. OK. It's still setting these up. You get to see 3 different types of AI employees here. The first one is chat, where you can just chat with it. Second one is a dashboard AI employee. And this is what I mentioned earlier when I said these are really popular. These lead to like 90% of the invocations because these can be invoked via apps, via APIs, or on schedules. So you'll see that it's single shot. It can have multiple different steps. In the inputs, we've added a candidate CV and a job description. And this is actually paused for human review. So I can go ahead, review like the decision, et cetera, get more information here. And whenever I'm ready with the information, I can run it end to end to see fit scores, whether the email was ready, and so on. Cool. So we've seen these AI employees get created. I'm going to quickly do a quick check myself on Access. Access is off. OK. Can you upgrade me to admin? All of you are in. I think we just have to figure out something on the login flow. On the admin front, on the governance front, I can give you a quick overview. Analytics is what we would all expect it to be. But because Emma is a partner, customer-led company where people are bringing their own use cases, we actually let companies create subtenants and new deployments of Emma right from here. So you probably saw when I was switching tenants that I can actually create new deployments for each customer, and a lot of our partners use this to deploy Emma to hundreds of their own customers. We come in with, again, self-serve settings for pretty much login, whitelisting email domains. You can bring your own licenses if you've got custom models or if you've got free credits. This is your standard API keys and launching Emma externally. And we come with some pretty strong RBAC and governance features. Previously, before Autopilot, most people built AI employees manually. So I would have to actually build a recruiting orchestrator. But now, Emma is able to do all of this using Autopilot. Cool. While we sort out the access issues, I'm going to take a quick pause here for questions. We've got a few more slides and content on what you can do on this platform beyond your first deployment that I just showed. But before I go there, any questions? Yep. The pricing model, it's usage and outcome-based pricing. So for a lot of AI employees, where we're actually selling outcomes, like how many of your employee experience tickets are never going to go to humans. They're going to get deflected by AI. We price per outcome. So it might be things like per sales proposal, per customer support ticket, per employee experience query. And sometimes it's usage-based, where someone is just buying 1 million credits, and they're saying, I'm going to build on Emma myself, so I might build whatever I want for any use case. Yeah. It is fully self-serve. So that's kind of the point of Autopilot. There is nothing on the UI that you can't also do from the autopilot here. Yeah, like most of our customers are now able to build and maintain at the same quality that we could 2 years ago. Yep. We are. We're interacting with both private integration deployments, so like structured data behind your HubSpot, Salesforce, ServiceNow, and also unstructured data that you probably have in Confluence, Notion, and so on. All of those are brought into Emma frequently. Spreadsheets as well, yeah. Like finance use case spreadsheets are kind of the primary mode, yeah.
Hello. How do you go about ROI measurement at your customers?
ROI measurement? It's a really good question. For some use cases, especially cost center use cases, it's pretty straightforward. It's fewer hours and fewer involvement from like the actual humans that used to do the task before. In some other cases where you're measuring productivity, for example, how much faster are you in putting out sales proposals? That's a common use case for us. We start with the prediction. Like I remember 2024, the prediction was they'll get 15% faster, 1.5, over the course of the year. And then we had to actually do studies to see how much faster they got. And within a couple of months, they were 3x faster, even when they were tenured for 10 years in the role. So you measure, and of course, you look at the outcome, which is you have to be getting more sales proposals, like 20% more sales proposals with the same number of people. So yeah, ROI usually gets measured in those 2 points. Yeah.
Hey, thank you for the talk. How do you think about processes that change over time? And so in your enterprise deployments, new regulation comes out, new process documents. How easy is it to reflect that in the employees that are doing the work, the AI employees?
The prices of models, like token pricing?
No, the process changes.
The process, okay.
Yeah, like how quick and easy is it when a new regulation, something comes out?
Yeah, that's a really good question. There are mostly like 2 kinds of changes. You see large changes where you know something has changed. For example, with prior authorization, the clinical policies actually change every year. So there's a published date where you know it's going to change, and it's predictable. In those cases, it's fairly self-serve. People can come, just talk to Autopilot. Emma has versioning. People then like have a new version, do their evals, and push it out. But there's a lot of real-world drift that you can't predict. Like your customers have started asking new types of questions in the last couple of weeks that you could not predict. For that, Emma is again able to go through your audit logs, identify those opportunities for improvements. Autopilot can recommend those changes with the right eval data to show it's actually better, and this is not going to regress your past use cases. And then a human actually signs off on the deployment. Both of those are automated processes.
Oh, question about, can you bring these AI employee agents integrated directly into a Zoom call or a Teams call and have them interact directly?
We haven't actually done live call tracking yet. We've done like processing right after the call with transcripts, but that's not a use case that's come up yet for us. A lot of questions. Just gonna take a...
So fantastic presentation, fantastic platform. This is sort of an adjacent question about like how much control do I have over the reward functions for each individual agentic employee? Insofar as I'm thinking about this as a broad reinforcement learning problem of my organization and the individuals within it, like how granular and where is the control associated with that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And you're right that people want to get control over the most granular step for each AI employee. First of all, which is why you have AI employees as opposed to one universal agent that does everything in your enterprise. For each AI employee, it's usually a very different person managing it, training it, like all of those are different roles, like the builder, the admin, the reviewer, the onboarder. And like there's usually somebody in some country who's now tasked with this AI employee needs to perform well for this specific use case, and those permissions are reflected in the system. A lot of people run evals at an AI employee level. You don't have to be technical again. The control you have is specifying your use cases. Some business users do it very non-technically. For example, they bring last 1 year's tickets, and they're like, I want at least this performance over all these tickets. Some people are fairly technical, and they actually have eval beds, so we support that entire spectrum. And now, within the AI employee as well, some of these AI employees are very free-form. They don't really have a workflow. Some of these actually have smaller blocks, and then you can run the same evals at a block level. Like, you can just measure and improve how well the AI employee works with Apollo and nothing else, right? Just the Apollo layer, I want to get 100% accuracy, 99% accuracy. So.
Hello? Oh. Hi, here.
Yeah, awesome.
Sorry, I had a quick follow-up question on what was asked before, right? The chatbot that you have over here, is there a way that we can integrate that into existing messaging services like Slack or something? And
absolutely.
It can participate?
A lot of people actually use us in Slack or Teams. Like Wipro uses us in Teams, GChat, and as an SDK, a floating app icon over one of their internal websites. So all three of those are channels. So it's fairly easy. I won't go through the entire setup right here, but we are able to get even non-technical people to do this integration at this point of time. Probably takes 10 minutes. Yeah.
Why are you guys multi-cloud? Like, what are the primary reasons? And then how do you guys connect to all those clouds?
Come again, sorry?
You said the platform was multi-cloud underneath. I was just wondering about the primary reasons for that.
Because a lot of sensitive customers, finance, healthcare, actually want to be on-prem. They want the deployment to be where they already are. They want the deployment to be air-gapped as well. Like, Emma cannot actually talk to any system, including the web or any API outside their cloud. And because our customers can be on GCP or Azure, we were multi-cloud from day one. So we've got a SaaS deployment. Dozens of customers are on SaaS. They really don't care. It's like setting up Notion for yourself, right? Like, you don't care about deployments. But for customers that do, we deploy on-prem.
So are you able to get your agents to enforce role-based access control to data for an employee asking about something? Say?
Yes, absolutely. So we've got two types of connections for integrations. It's kind of an advanced feature, so I probably switched it off here. I have, yeah. I can show it to you in a minute on like a more powerful version of this platform. But we allow two types of connections. One would be like shared service auth, right? Where it doesn't really care if I'm asking something or if you are asking, it's the same access. But for most use cases, it should actually be user level auth. So the first time you ask the agent a question that requires calling into, let's say, ServiceNow, it's going to ask you to log in. And all your answers will now be with your key, which helps it not just restrict what information you get, but actually like keep an audit log even in the other system that, okay, Anushka asked for this information and hence this information was served to her via an MI agent.
I'm wondering, in the use cases that you've built for different clients, how large the number of agents can get? Like, what is the largest scale that you've built? And also, I was wondering if you could share some estimate about like how long a workflow would like take on average to run for that large-scale deployment, and also the cost, if you could share some estimates. Thank you.
Yeah, I probably can't share costs, but from a number point of view, we've definitely seen hundreds in a single tenant, in a single customer deployment. 300, 400, I've seen that number myself. The point here is also it's in people's interest to break these up because of the point I made earlier about who's maintaining this, who's responsible for this working and staying up to date and actually following up processes. And we are seeing that a lot of humans are now becoming AI employee managers. So you are tasked as somebody who has a team of 6 human employees and these 3 AI employees on Emma that 200,000 people in your company might use, but you're the one responsible for making sure this one performs well, because you're the business expert on this process, right? So it's in people's interest to actually break it down. The workflows can get super complex. You can merge these, you can break them apart, but breaking them apart just means better governance and management. From a duration point of view, there are workflows that take multiple days, like you're processing a very complex finance use case, a new procurement for a vendor, probably has 10 approvals. So it really depends on the business process itself, because you're getting stuck on like the humans that are going to do the approvals. The agent is quick, but the real world implications are there. And a lot of other use cases are much faster.
So you mentioned proactive in your earlier slides. How do you make AI employee proactive? Like,
It's a good question. Let me see if I can pull up maybe a really messy internal demo. Once again, this one is very restricted, has a lot fewer features. Okay, I'm just going to create a new one. This is a test tenant. I can show it to you. So when you've got AI employees that you create, they can obviously be triggered by someone texting them. But what we allow, and once again, nobody actually looks at these screens, guys. You just talk to Autopilot. All of this is like the background. It's like looking at the code at this point. We let people set up webhooks. We let these AI employees poll your systems. We let it connect directly to systems and have like conditions like when there's a new lead added to Salesforce, I want you to go and figure out if they're a good candidate for us. So we've got a lot of different types of triggers, like monitoring inboxes, setting up schedules. Every morning I want an email that does X. And all of these are as simple as sending a sentence out, and these just automatically run.
Hey, hi. I have a question about, earlier you showed the Emma Copilot. Yeah, it helps basically self-drive, work in a self-driving mode, but there might, I imagine that if you're working with ticket resolution, there might be a bunch of things which are repeated again and again over and over.
Yeah.
So does it also offer basically pre-built code recipes so that deterministic tasks can be done? Otherwise, the token cost for the things which are very mundane in nature would just keep on
Yeah,
increasing.
absolutely. So we let people actually represent code specifically as a part of workflows as well. The thing is, you don't want to spend months setting this up. So what you can actually start with is an empty Emma tenant, 0 AI employees, and you're just working with Emma Autopilot for every task. And as it figures what's repetitive, it starts codifying those. So it builds AI employees, which are agentic or actually straight up writes code, and maintains that based on real world usage and feedback. Awesome.
Thank you for the talk, Kanishka. Very, very cool. Thank you for making it detailed enough to be useful. Question that I have for you is more meta. You're positioning this as AI employees, and that would imply sort of discrete or transformational business process outsourcing. The whole business process is outsourced. But a lot of your examples are more task-oriented. What would you say the distribution is between like a true offshore, but now it's a digital shore outsourcing versus task-specific within a employee's broader span of responsibilities? So task versus full business process.
Right. The end state for every contract and project we start with is role-focused, right? So it usually ends up in a single interface you can talk to, which can actually do the entire job, or a single automation that can actually do the entire job across all of the different tasks. The adoption usually starts a little slower. So what we see is you can build an AI employee that does everything end-to-end, but the blocker is always the humans that are collaborating with that AI employee. So we've seen like actually launching them task by task. So let's start with sourcing, then move on to screening the CVs, and then let's move on to scheduling the interviews with the candidate, and then let's move on to onboarding the candidates you actually liked, managing the offer letter, etc. Usually helps the recruiting team like slowly warm up and learn how to work with AI agents better. So you start with a task and you like expand to the entire gamut of what that role can do.
Yeah, hey, what are the typical ratios between a human and their AI employees? So if I have a company of 20 humans, what is the typical ratio of number of agents they would have? And then what is the farthest you have seen? In other words, one human with 100 agents, for example.
Right. It's really easy and cheap to create new AI employees in Emma. You only get charged when you're actually getting value out of it. So a lot of people do go ahead and create a lot of these automations. But Emma works with very large companies. We don't work with small and medium enterprises. So the ratio is always going to be very large recruiting team, 200 people, but they only ever need like maybe 20 AI employees, and that's what everybody works with. So the usage per AI employee is very, very high, thousands of invocations per day, but we don't really optimize for number of agents.
Hey, I have a question for you more on the practical side. As many said before, really good presentation. I really like the aspect. We hear a lot about the technology and what makes it work in the background, but how do you apply it in the real world? So really, really well done. This was a good context. I want to go even more practical. Let's say you win a big deal with General Motors or Bank of America to do all of their processes, right? How does it really work when you go in? You ask them for their process books. How do you onboard a new employee? Or you sit beside somebody, and somebody who does this job day by day would do it? This is my first question. And then the second one, what I would assume, you will get a lot of resistance, maybe from some people, right? Why would I use this tool? And people are not dumb, right? Hey, will they do my job? How do you deal with this resistance, and how do you get into this aspect?
Yeah, those are good questions, and that definitely happens in real life. So to the first question, the deployment process models that I talked about earlier, it's either someone at Emma or one of our partners that has become the agentic transformation expert and is responsible for the AI employees working well and launching them the first time. In that case, it's like a deep discovery process, right? Where you're actually not just doing workshops with the buyer and the team lead, but you're sitting in the room with the person doing the job and shadowing them for hours and days. You're looking at all the past examples of their work from the last 1 year, and then coming up with the definition. Once you have the process well defined, you don't have to do much. You can throw it into Emma Autopilot, a few hours, and it's built and tested. So you don't have to know about Emma to launch impactful stuff in Emma. You have to know a lot about the business process. That's expertise you need. But like I said, like this is also a very common model where a lot of our customers then move on to wanting to build themselves. So they're like, if you're just going to put it in Emma Autopilot, I can do that. I'm the expert on this recruiting process. Just give me access. And then they go ahead and play around. And we're seeing the rise of citizen developers, like people who really want to bring AI into their jobs without being technical at all. They've never written a line of code in their lives. To the second point, I feel like that resistance was a lot more common a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago, where it was like, hey, why do you want me to evaluate AI samples when this will probably affect my own role? We've seen that change a lot in the last couple of years. Everyone's realized you need to be faster and AI equipped to stay at the top of your job, to stay at the top of your industry, and adopting AI will actually make you more indispensable and much better at your job. So we see a lot of excitement where people want to be the ones training it, want to understand how it actually works, and get deeper now.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for your patience. You should be able to sign in now and be your own citizen developer. So yeah, please try out our platform. We'll extend access beyond this session as well. So now your emails should work.
Yeah, sorry about that. But yes, please log in. Paste out this prompt, play with it, build your own integration. Do not connect any real systems, please. This is a shared tenant. Do not connect your customers or your own data. Your companies won't like that. I've pasted an Apollo API key. I'll increase the number of credits on this so you can use it through the day. Yeah, go ahead and play with it. And we have a booth, once again, like I mentioned, in Zellerbach Mezzanine. So if you try it out and you have feedback or you have questions, we're all going to be there the rest of the day. So you can come talk to us, ask us more questions. And also, last thing, we've never actually opened this up to people without a contract, right? Like we've got very large customers, they keep us busy. But we are opening up for free self-serve trial access end of this month. I think you would have marked it on the form, but if you've signed up for that, you can actually get slightly longer term access than 1 day to Emma to actually try and automate stuff. I see we're almost done with the session. This was all the time I had. I'm slightly over. Can we go over for a couple more questions? Should we wrap up here? One or two more? Okay, we can probably take one or two, yeah. It's, again, like the two models, when we are taking outcomes to the market with customer, it is based on the use case. Like a sales proposal use case is going to be priced very differently from a customer support use case. It does not depend on the number of tokens being used. It's not cost-based pricing. It's about like how much you would actually pay a person in that job and how much faster are we making them. So some jobs just cost a lot more. We actually instrument those outcome-based pricing models in tandem with customers, and our metrics, billing metrics, are extremely configurable. So when you take AI employees for sales proposal to market, you will actually measure the number of sales proposals, price based on that. Yeah, that's the last question. So skills is like a less powerful version of an AI employee. We let you do that too in the system. The benefit this has is we actually have like a strong template marketplace. These are templates that allow people to share stuff with the right people in their own company very easily. So you can use that for skills. You can use that for AI employees. But like I mentioned earlier, AI employees are a lot more complex. They've got their own memory. They've got deterministic and agentic steps put in there, and they're being evaluated for that use case very, very well. And most people who are taking something live actually want all of these tabs. They want to see how many people used it, where it went wrong, where can I improve, I want auto improvement help, and so on. So even though skills does exist on the platform, most people prefer using AI employees directly. Cool, thank you so much. That was it.